The best thing to come out of the 1992 draft was Brett Favre, and he was drafted in 1991. The Falcons shipped him over to the Packers because they couldn't sober him up. The Packers traded the 17th pick for him in 1992, and well, the rest is history. But how bad was the 1992 draft? The first 2 picks were busts, but it goes beyond that. No Hall of Famers or MVPs. On average, you have 4 Hall of Famers selected each draft. There were only 2 other drafts where no Hall of Famers were produced, 1943 and 1984. We can blame the war in part. Players had to go serve and their careers were disrupted by that. The 1984 class, while it had no Hall of Famers, there were some candidates. And Bengals QB Boomer Esiason won MVP in 1988. The Colts had the first 2 picks in the draft. The only other time that's happened is in 1958, and those picks flopped, although the players selected were seen as the top prospects. It's not that the picks did not make sense. Defensive legend Buddy Ryan said the first pick, Steve Entman, was the best player in the country. The Colts finished the season 1-15, giving them the first pick, and the Bucs traded their 1992 first-round pick for quarterback Chris Chandler in 1990. The result of that trade is kind of obvious, given the Bucs have the second overall pick, the one that belongs to the Colts now. Chandler was waived after a whopping 6 games. The first 2 picks could have changed the course of a franchise, but unfortunately for the Colts, this would go down as the worst draft ever. It's hard to say if their first pick, Steve Entman, would have been any good, because he was riddled with injuries. He showed some flashes, the biggest highlight being a 90-yard pick 6 to give the Colts a win over Miami, but he played 9 games in 3 years and was out of the league in 5. Their second pick, Quentin Coryat, had a fine 7-year career, but it wasn't second pick overall type of career. He led the team in tackles in his rookie season, but an injury in 1996 would essentially spell the end of his career. But it was not just the Colts who suffered. Take the Bengals, for example, who picked quarterback David Klingler number 6 overall. Klingler threw an NCAA record 11 touchdowns in a single game. But his skills wouldn't carry over to the NFL. Yep, I don't need to add much to that. The 2 quarterbacks selected in the first round, Klingler and Tommy Maddox, were off the team that selected them within the first 4 years, and over their careers threw more interceptions than touchdowns. The best quarterbacks of the draft were probably Jeff Blake, who went in the 6th round, and Brad Johnson, who went in the 9th round, and they spent a good amount of time in the league. Tommy Maddox would get some redemption though. He warmed the bench for the Broncos, then went to spend some time in arena football and in the XFL, where he actually improved, and returned to the NFL, joining the Steelers in 2002 and winning Comeback Player of the Year. But that was a pretty long redemption arc for a first round pick. It would be a recurring theme though. A few players in this draft who were selected took several years to pan out. Another good example of that is Jimmy Smith, who was selected by the Cowboys in the 2nd round, but didn't really emerge until 1996 once he got to the Jags. Another player, Desmond Howard, was selected by the Redskins. They actually had the 6th pick and traded up to the 4th, despite winning the Super Bowl that year. They acquired the pick from a trade with the Chargers the year prior. While Howard didn't work out for the Redskins, he'd find his way becoming a specialist with the Packers, and he won Super Bowl MVP against the Patriots, the first special team player to win the award. Some other notable players that did pretty well: Troy Vincent, cornerback, went 7th overall, played 15 years, and was selected to 5 Pro Bowls and 2 All-Pros. Bob Whitfield, who went 8th, also played 15 years. Dallas fared pretty well, most notably Darren Woodson, who probably has the best case for Hall of Fame in this draft class, but also key contributors Kevin Smith and Robert Jones. That being said, the overall pool of talent was lackluster. With 336 selections, you're going to get some good players, but on the whole, this goes down in the record books as an all-time busty draft.